What's next? And I'm going to start this with a bit of a story. Y'all like stories? All right, I got at least one in the room, so that's good. So my first month working at Texas Impact, I was doing a presentation to a United Methodist group that I won't name, because I don't want to throw them under the bus. And I was going through the legislative agenda from 2 legislative sessions ago. And, I went through all of the different bullet points on the Texas Impact legislative agenda. And for those who are familiar with Texas Impact, you'll remember that we have a consensus process to put things on the legislative agenda, where all of the 50-ish board members who are representing different denominational bodies or judicatories or groups come together and sit together over a weekend and come to a legislative agenda that they can all agree on. And one of the items on the legislative agenda that's been on there for a long, long time has been that we as people of faith in Texas are opposed to capital punishment. And so one of the people in the room after the presentation in front of the group said, well, how much time and energy are you going to spend lobbying on the death penalty? And I said, honestly, probably not a whole lot. And he gave me this really angry look. And I knew that he was mad about that answer. And he said, well, why not? It's on your legislative agenda. And I said, I live in Huntsville, and this is an important issue to me. But spoiler alert, the Texas legislature is not going to vote to abolish capital punishment this legislative session. That we will likely spend a lot more of the lobby time on issues that have a better chance of passing. But that doesn't mean it's not something that we care about. It's just not something that a whole lot of time and energy lobbying the current set of elected officials is going to change. It's not the lobby team's responsibility. You know whose responsibility it is? Y'all can talk back, it's okay. It's me today. Whose job is it? Right, it's our job. It's our job as people of faith to have conversations about issues that are important to us, to have conversations in our Sunday school classes, to have conversations in our denominational bodies, to have conversations during election season, and to have conversations with our elected officials, because that's the way public policy has changed. Once we're here in session, there are a lot of issues that legislators are locked in on. And because of primaries or because of who's sitting in the pink building, some of these issues are not going to change unless we do the work during the interim. And so a lot of people in the advocacy community and a lot of people who do this kind of thing, starting next Monday when the session ends, are going to take a couple of weeks off and kind of regroup and maybe take some vacations. Do you want to know what elected officials are going to start doing the day after session ends? Campaign season starts, right? And so I want us to not think that we can take 6 months off when the legislature ends. Let's not think of this as the end of the process. Let's think of it as the beginning of the 2019 legislative session. And we need to start to build towards 2019 on Monday, right? And so there are things that we need to be thinking about. We need to start to explore our faith and think about what our faith says about all of these issues that we've been talking about during the course of the legislative session. We need to take a couple of days to go back and look at all of the action alerts that we've shared during Weekly Witness. They are all online at texasimpact.org/action. Go back and look and start to make a mental list and start to make a physical list of all of the issues that you've cared about this legislative session. Start to make an actual list of all of the questions that you would ask your legislator if you get a chance to meet with them. And start to think about and flesh out your faith story and what your faith says about these different issues. And you know what I want you to do with that list? What do you think we should do with that list? That'd be great. If you want to send it to me, I'd be curious. That wasn't the answer I was going for, but I like that one too. You can email your list to me at scott@texasimpact.org, and I will remind you 3 months from now that you had that list. Because I want us to memorialize next week during Memorial Day week the way that we feel right now. And I want us to remember the way that we feel right now 3 months from now. So what I'm going to do with my list is I'm going to go make a calendar reminder for the end of July. And in that calendar reminder, I'm going to put my list there so that towards the end of the summer, I can be remotivated to engage. And I'm going to challenge you to do the same thing. Maybe July 20th, we all put our list and we all remember how frustrated we are right now. And we all start to ask ourselves the question again, what am I willing to do during the course of the next year? What issues are important to me right now that I want to remember? What questions do I have for my legislator that I want to ask them? So number one, we're going to reflect and we're going to remind ourselves. Number two, we're going to start to develop strategies to engage in conversations about our faith and public policy in all of the different areas where we have influence. We need to figure out how our Sunday school classes or small groups can have these conversations. We need to figure out how our congregations and faith leaders can have these conversations. I'm a United Methodist. It's annual conference season. Last year, I think I went to 4 of them. We need to figure out how our denominational bodies can have these conversations and how we can make sure that whether it be Texas Impact or you can be a tool for those different denominational bodies to engage in these conversations. So number 2 is to start to strategically think about how you can get this information into the hands of your networks. We would love to be your partner on that. You can email me at scott@texasimpact.org or our team at engagement@texasimpact.org and have a conversation with us about ways that we can partner to get that word out. Number 3, start to build relationships with your current elected officials. Look at their voting records. There will be opportunities to ask them questions. There will be opportunities to share their voting record with other people in your network. Sorry, my phone is currently blowing up. Okay, thanks. I'll share that in a second. Thank you. Our next gathering together in a couple of weeks, whether it be live or whether it be online or whether it be by podcast, we'll give a session wrap up where we'll talk about all the different pieces of legislation that we've talked about. And we will provide opportunities for you to know how your legislator voted if that's something that's important to you. So start to think about what information you want and then start to build those relationships with the legislators. Start to hold them accountable if they need it. Be willing to call and tell them thank you if they need that. For some people, they've been heroes this legislative session. And we need to let them know that we appreciated it. It can be disheartening for legislators just as much as us to work all legislative session at the end, see things that you care about die or see things that you despise get passed. So for those legislators who have been good on issues that you care about, make sure to say thank you. But also as people of faith, we know that sometimes it's important that we are held accountable when we fall short. We also think it's important that we hold others accountable when they have not done the job that we sent them to Austin to do. So we hope that you will have conversations, but also build relationships so that when you make telephone calls next legislative session, they'll remember your face, they'll remember your name, and they'll remember that you're a decent human being who's doing good work in your community. So spend this interim time building relationships one way or another. Next up, there's an election season coming in 2018. And when we think about election season, most of us think about November, right? We're here to talk about the importance of every election, whether it be local races in May, primary races in March, and general elections in November. Every election is important, and we have seen over the course of the last few weeks that the impact a small number of people can have in a primary election. The results we got over the course of the last week were because of low turnout in primary elections. this is maybe the most important thing we can talk about over the course of the next couple of weeks is to think about ways that our congregations and our communities can educate people on the issues and on the importance of voting in every election. Any questions about any of that? That wasn't the fun part, right? I'm going to ask one more time. I saw I was getting a bunch of messages here. So I want to spend just a few minutes before I wrap it up today. It can be a little shorter, to see if anybody has any weekly witness during the legislative session, closing thoughts. My phone's not downloading messages. I know I'm getting some from the back and I'm not seeing any of them. So if you can share your phone for a second, that'd be great. But I'm going to open it up. Are there any people online or in the room who just want to have any closing thoughts or ask any questions that you might have? So I'm just going to read this. There was a compromise to spend about $1 billion, assumed from the rainy day fund, on things that Dan Patrick says it's okay to spend them on. They're going to do an accounting trick for $1.7 billion that will create $1.7 billion hole going into the next legislative session. So Dan Patrick's requiring the $1 billion to be spent on one-time expenses. I saw an article this weekend that said he's identifying what counts as one-time expenses.
Oh boy.
So any questions or closing thoughts from
Scott?
Sure.
I just am wondering about what happened or where the bill with the licensing of the detention centers is. 1018, I believe it is.
I don't, so the question was what we were calling baby jails, the licensing of private prisons as child care facilities. My understanding is that bill did not move forward.
Great.
You all made a ton of calls on that last week, and we appreciate that. I'm going to check to confirm here momentarily, but my understanding is that did not move forward.
Oh, hopefully. Okay.
Thank you. Good question. Any other questions, closing thoughts? All right. Anything on, Elaine, you have anything online? Nope. Okay. Then I guess I'll just close out by saying that at the beginning of the legislative session, I guess my dream is that, we'd have thousands of telephone calls and hundreds of people being involved in the process, and that we could paint a rosy picture of all of the things that you've done this legislative session. The first two of those things were true. Hundreds of people have participated through rapid response and weekly witness, generating thousands and thousands of telephone calls to legislators, and you worked really, really, really hard to pass some kind of common sense things like not throwing away food in school cafeterias. And so I applaud us for that effort. But it's also an important thing to not paint an untrue picture of reality. Things are not rosy in the state of Texas right now, so I'm not going to lie to you. It's been frustrating. It's been hard. It has been a disheartening couple of weeks. And for people who care about the environment or children or low-income Texans or immigrants relating to the SB4 debate or refugees or any of these other issues that people of faith care about, Texas has taken a step backward this legislative session. And it's frustrating. And it's hard and it's painful, and harm is going to be done because of the decisions that were made this legislative session. Lives are going to be hurt. And as people of faith, we cannot stand for that. But as people of faith, we also know that when it gets dark, the story is not over. Because we believe that a better day is coming. We believe that the arc of the universe bends toward justice, and even if we're taking some steps backward right now, we believe that better days are coming, and it's because there are people taking part in weekly witness, participating in rapid response, that we're going to continue to move forward in a better way. So now is not the time to give up. Now is the time to assess where we are and figure out what steps we take next. It's time to discern what tools we have available to us and figure out how we can use those tools to bring Texas to a better place. And I look forward to being a part of that discernment process with you. I look forward to maybe taking a nap on Tuesday, because actually, no, I'll be at annual conference. I take that back. But post-annual conference season, I think we're all looking forward to maybe a day or two where we can prayerfully reflect on the last couple of weeks and then come back in a couple of weeks ready to go again, ready to begin to make a difference for the lives of Texans who have been harmed over the course of the last few weeks. And I am proud to be a part of this community with you. I'm extremely grateful for every person who has walked in these doors this legislative session. I'm extremely grateful for every telephone call that has been made. And I'm looking forward to the day when we will stand here at the end of a legislative session and say, we made a difference. Lives are better because of what happened in that building behind us.